Chapter 9. Froot Loops. Did I mention that I robbed a train one time? It's true. No, it wasn't at gunpoint, though the gun was involved. I do my best to play up that line when I can. Being a country music singer aspiring to follow in the footsteps of Johnny Cash, Merle Haggard, and others, I'm somewhat proud of the fact that I can tell folks that I once robbed a train. I usually prefer not to go into any of the details of the event, not because I'm ashamed of them, although I should be, but mostly because the details sort of change the power of my time spent in the big house testimony. I was about 15 years old, tall and gangly, still newly living in a little green trailer in the backyard of a nice older couple who lived right near the edge of Greenville, Kentucky. My cousin Aaron and I didn't know many people yet, since we both recently moved there and were pretty shy. Luckily, on the bus to school, we made a new friend who was a fast talker and much cooler than us. His name was Scotty, and as it turned out, he was a preacher's son. That should be safe enough, I'm sure my mom figured, but not hardly. It seems that the children of the men who lead churches tend to like to lead lives that are a little different from the ones their parents preach about. This one did, anyway. In the first couple of weeks we started hanging around with him, we learned how to break into empty buildings at night using an unlocked window instead of a key, how to climb onto the roofs of other buildings, rip off the shingles and throw them at passing cars, and even how to get free candy from vending machines by knocking them over. Once the glass shattered, we just tipped it back up and everything was free. I'm not proud of those things, but they happened. Those things and the great train robbery of 1980. Aaron, Scotty, and I had a hideout. Well, it was more like a ditch where we hid some beer that another friend named Bruce had stolen from his old man. It was pretty lame, a spot in a field where we would sit and talk. No one was around, so technically I guess we could call it our hideout. One particular day we were walking down an alley and came across some grain bins near a railroad track. We proceeded to climb up on top of one and let ourselves in through the metal hinged door, then just sat in a big pile of corn that was inside. I played my harmonica until I accidentally set it down and lost it in all the corn. We eventually got bored and climbed out, looking for something else to do. Scotty recommended we open the doors of the train boxcars parked nearby to see what was inside. We thought, sure, what the heck? So we took a pocket knife, cut through the little tab that said something about private property and federal offense, and slowly opened the first boxcar door. The first car was filled to the brim with cardboard boxes. We opened one up. Ketchup. 60 million cases of Del Monte ketchup. We quickly tried another. Green beans. We bailed on that one too. Then we hit the mother lode. A boxcar filled from floor to ceiling with cases of Froot Loops. We dug in and stayed for a while. We laughed and talked and ate till we were almost sick. Then we decided to take a case each and maybe stash them at our hideout ditch just down the alley. Unfortunately, about 100 yards into our trip, we heard a car come barreling up behind us, blue lights flashing. So we dropped our loot and took off running. Halfway down the alley, I peeled off to the right and ran around some houses, then found a spot between some bushes and somebody's front porch. I wasn't sure where Aaron or Scotty were until I felt Aaron land on my back. He and I just lay there in the dirt, listening to the sounds of our heavy breathing and the police radio saying, "I think they went this way," and any sign of them. Then we heard a gunshot. I checked to see if I was still breathing or dead. The adrenaline was pumping through my veins. I was so scared. Then suddenly the barrel of a pistol was against my cheek, and a knee was in my back and Aaron's. I heard a voice say, "We got him, over here." And the next thing we knew, we had handcuffs on and were in the back seat of a squad car. Now, I had never been to jail or seen police officers up close, but I'd seen them on TV. And I'd seen what happened to suspects, and I could see my future. Seriously, I could almost feel an immediate shift in what was going to be the story of my life. I was going to be a hoodlum, and spending time in jail was going to be a normal for me. I hung my head and sulked as they drove us downtown, and so did Aaron. At the jailhouse, it was much the same. He and I thinking we'd become hardened criminals for a few boxes of Kellogg's cereal. Maybe 15 minutes or maybe 3 hours later, I don't know, an officer came and got us and told us that he was taking us to the police chief's office and that Aaron's dad was on his way too. We each took a chair in the corner of the room and slunk our bodies way down low in the cushions, upset at how we'd been treated. Those officers had cursed words at us, bad ones. and told us we were lying when we said we had never done anything like this before. I thought to myself, wait till Uncle Rod gets here. He's going to set them straight. They'll be sorry for arresting and being so tough with us. But when he got there, it didn't go the way I thought it would. Uncle Rod just listened as the gray-haired man with the stripes on his sleeve told him what we had done and that someone had been breaking into the boxcars over the last few months and stealing things. More than just cereal. And he told him that this was a federal offense. We had broken a railroad seal and could go to federal prison for our crime. When the chief was finished talking, I expected Uncle Rod to lay into him, to tell me he couldn't treat his boys like that, and they were innocent until proven guilty. I even thought maybe he was going to sue the city for the hardship they caused us, but he didn't. Instead, he just said, "Excuse me for a moment." Then he turned to Aaron and me and said, "Sit up. You boys show some respect to this man and the difficult job that he has to do." Aaron and I bolted to attention in our chairs. Then he asked the police chief if he could take us for a drive to talk to us. He said he'd be back in an hour. By then it was 2 a.m, and surprisingly the chief said, "Okay, have them back here in an hour." Uncle Rod drove us back out to the scene of the crime, and while driving he said, "They want you to tell them who the other boy was that was with you. They'll let you go if you tell them who you were with." Both Aaron and I were hardened criminals by now, and Scotty was our friend. We would never rat on a friend. But then Uncle Rod said something that would devastate even the hardest criminal. "I'm disappointed in you boys." And we caved. Through the tears pouring down our cheeks, we told him it was our new friend Scott, and since he said he had done it before, we didn't think we would get in any trouble. We were sorry. Then he asked, "Where does he live?" And the next thing we knew, it was 3 a.m, and we were knocking on the door of the preacher's house next to the big Baptist church. An older, balding man and his wife came to the door in their nightclothes. "Tell them," Uncle Rod said. So we told them the story about how we were in jail most of the night and how the other boy had run off in a different direction. We were sorry, but we had to tell them the truth. The other boy was their son. They were horrified. They didn't believe us. They called upstairs to Scotty, and he came down, wiping his eyes as he stepped to the door and saw us. "Hi, guys," he said. "What's going on?" Scotty denied the whole thing. He said we were bad kids from another state and were making it all up. I don't remember what happened after that. I think we got community service and Scotty got away with it. But one thing I do know, we weren't friends anymore. Just like that, we were out of the club. I saw Scotty years later on a trip to Kentucky. It was around a bonfire. He was in his 30s, handsome with a big smile. He was a car salesman or a preacher or both. I can't remember. But he seemed like a really nice guy. We sat around the fire that night and laughed about that story together. I think God had been working on his character, like he had been working on mine. We all get the chance to be someone else, to start over and put the past behind us, and give us another one every day. I love that. A few years later, when I was 17 and joining the Marines, they almost didn't let me in because I had a felony charge on my record somewhere. Then they almost didn't let me in when I explained to them it was for robbing a train for Froot Loops.